So Wes, talk to me about the things that stand out in your mind when it comes to Diane and things like the gunpowder residue that we were going over this morning.
Well, I'd really like to start with first when this first I heard somebody say that they knew who did it, and they asked me to come. They actually contacted Diane. I went and met with them, and she gave me the first affidavit that Diane didn't shoot the children, but her son-in-law did, and that was a start. And it's been a long trail since then, from Fran Werta to there have been one after the other come forward.
Right. Fran Werta is the mother-in-law of James Haynes,
Yes.
who most people that have paid attention to this story believe he is indeed the person that pulled the trigger that night.
Yes, that's right.
And he died very recently.
Yes, in June of this year.
In June. But you have several people that were very close to James Haynes who have told you they do believe he is indeed the one.
As a matter of fact, Clayton Niceston was his partner, and his partner told me that James did it. It's hard to get anybody to listen. At least the people who have the power to do something about it. They just choose to ignore it. Better let it, nothing said, and that way they don't have to do anything about it.
In your mind, they knew just what they were going to do before the trial ever started, that they were going to have their conviction.
No question about it. No question about it.
And the fact that Ann Rule, who, is so well known after writing so many books, when she showed up, that obviously let people know that she was believing the police at that point, Ann Rule.
Yeah. I wouldn't believe the police in Eugene any more than if someone came from some country says, I think Diane did it, when they don't know anything.
Right. And you were a retired postmaster. You had quite a dazzling career with the Postal Service, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a fine career with them. Yes.
Yeah. And you had relocated to Springfield yourself, and that...
Yeah, I got a promotion to Springfield.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Diane worked as a postal delivery worker. I think many people don't realize that was...
Yeah, she's working in Eugene, and Eugene is a twin city to Springfield.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was during that time that she was approached by a man who described himself as a federal investigator.
That's true.
Named Coffin.
Yes.
Right. And he asked her to go into a party one night and observe what she saw.
Yeah.
And can you describe what she saw?
What she did is she went into a room where a drug trade was. She'd been told, you can go any place you want, but don't go in this area here because that's off limits. My daughter is very strange that way. She's curious to find out what she shouldn't find out. She went into the room, and there was a drug trade going on, and they caused quite a ruckus, as a matter of fact, and chased her out of them. Said, get out, this is not your place.
And that's where we believe she saw Pat Horton, who was a prosecutor for the state of Oregon out of Lane County, right? And this is a prosecutor who, after the case was over, went to work for basically the same people he had been convicting, or not convicting. But that's an amazing story. With James Haynes, you have a number of people that knew him who have said they believe that he is the killer.
Yeah.
So that's Fran Werta, the mother-in-law.
Yeah.
That's his partner that you just mentioned.
And Clayton Niceston.
Clayton Niceston. Now, what happened to him?
He died.
And when did he die? How was it?
He was in a motorcycle accident out near his place in the country in Springfield. Actually, out by Junction City.
Okay. Was there anything suspicious about his death that you know of?
I've been told that after his accident, he went in a motel, stay in a motel to recuperate. I don't have any way to prove it.
Oh, he survived the accident.
He survived the accident, but he was in bad shape. And I've been told that the police say that he fell in the room and broke his neck.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true too.
But at any rate, he ceased to exist at that point.
I was told by the people that James Haynes came and did him in. They both were karate buddies. That's how they met.
Okay.
And James Haynes had a nickname of Animal, and he proved it many times.
Right. After the shooting and everything happened, I understand he was driving a brand new vehicle all of a sudden, and that lent weight to the theory that he had been given a pretty big payment to commit the act against Diane and your grandchildren.
I don't know about the vehicle.
Okay. I think that's something that James and I had run into, that he had some type of a brand new red car. At any rate, after all these years, Diane's been convicted in prison, and it obviously hasn't been easy, but she has stuck to her story this entire time, hasn't she? She's never done anything to indicate that she was involved in that crime.
No, she hadn't. As a matter of fact, the governor sent her two different times letters to so she could file clemency, but she says, I won't do it. I won't confess to something I didn't do. She says, I'll rot in prison.
It's a big statement.
Yeah. I wish there's some way around it.
I think anyone who knows the story knows that you've stood by her from the beginning of this whole thing,
yeah.
And you're still standing by her today, still hoping.
Yeah, I do hope so. It's wrong because there's too many things. The tests that they ran on her, the ballistics test, she had no gunshot residue on her, she had no blood spatter on her, and the trace metal was negative. She passed all those.
And we know for a fact that she drove to the hospital in a mighty big hurry. She didn't take time along the way to wash off. I don't think you can wash off those residues.
Well, she was actually followed from the site out there by someone, I don't remember the name now, but it's in the record, as she made her way to town. So they verified that she came that route.
Right. And she drove straight to the hospital, which is not the act of one who's trying to take life away. You don't drive him to the hospital as fast as... Well, that's the one that always stood out in my mind. And I know, I've read about the trial. I wasn't there, but my friend Eric was there, and he's gone over it with me in great detail. And, he was shaking his head as a young reporter throughout the whole thing. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Also, the lawyer, Jagger, seems... Okay, well, we went over the one court document that was the police officer that ran the forensic tests that indicated that she hadn't used a weapon, and he didn't ask any questions in regard to that, did he?
No, I didn't.
Was that maybe the best opportunity that he had?
I think that he had several opportunities just like that, and it just no further questions.
Right. Let's talk about Oregon for just a moment. I've, as a reporter, covered many stories about Oregon's legal system that show how flawed it can be and how corrupt it can be. But what do you say to the average person who's watching this and they're thinking, but this is a court. This is it is corrupt, isn't it? I mean, it is.
I think so.
People do things for personal gain.
Yeah.
Now that's where the grandchildren fall into this story again, with the prosecutor adopting the grandchildren. Have you ever heard of a story like that?
No, never before.
If that wasn't a conflict of interest, I don't honestly know. This is Fred Hughey.
Yeah. Then Fred Hughes was the prosecutor, and the state awarded him the children. We had people all in several cities that would have taken them, that were family members.
Right.
We didn't even receive any consideration.
How about the testimony of Danny? It is Danny, right?
Yeah, he didn't testify. They didn't have him testify in court, but in the hospital, he asked why that man shot me. Those are his words. Why that man shot me.
It's completely amazing that was not allowed in court. That would have.
The nurse wrote down in the hospital records. As a matter of fact, may have it on hand around here still.
And Jagger didn't use these tools, so to speak.
No. I think his intention was to get out of it as easy as he could.
And his wife became a judge right after this.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. And I am very suspicious.
Right.
Oregon has a way of awarding people. Coffin became a judge, and Jagger's wife became a judge.
Yep. And then Horton went on to no longer be a prosecutor, but a representative for the very people he had been.
Yeah. Well, I think he had to leave because I think the pressure was on.
Yeah, there was pressure on him over the drugs having disappeared, all independent from everything else we're talking about.
Yes.
What is he practicing today, as far as you know? Still? Is he still an attorney?
I don't know. I've kind of lost touch with him. I know who he is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've lost touch with him.
So how often do you hear from Diane? Are you in contact fairly regularly?
I did have a phone working so that she could call home if she wanted. And for some reason, she has of late been unable to contact us by phone. And it's not about money because I have plenty of money to she says that they have it blocked. I can't. And I've called and they said, no, it's not blocked. But she says, they keep telling me it's blocked.
Well, she's the one who would know if it's not working because she's.
So we write her letters instead.
Yeah.
Keep waiting. Every day we hope to hear her. We even got a separate telephone. We'll try another phone. So we have two telephones in the house now. So
just so you can be sure and get her calls.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, as I said earlier, I think every parent should be able to relate to this.
Yeah.
Their child is accused of something where it just doesn't make sense and then put away for so long. What would you say to the Oregon governor or attorney general if you could sit down with them right now? What would you say to them?
Look at the circumstances and look at what the report was from the court, not what the judge said, but what the investigators found. No blood splatter, no any sign of no trace metal, no gunshot residue, no blood splatter.
Yep. And I don't mean to sound rude, but the car was a mess. I mean, the headliner of the car was soaked with blood. It looked to me from the photos that anybody who would have been anywhere near that shooting would have had plenty of evidence on them.
And the headliner says that Christie was lying down too, because the splatter went up.
Right.
Or as if she had been sitting behind the seat, driver's seat, as she said, and had been shot. The trajectory would have been downward, and there would have been blood spray all over the seat, and it was not.
And the prosecution obviously implied that Diane's gunshot injury was self-inflicted. It was a fairly serious injury, wasn't it? I understand it broke the bones in her,
Yes.
not one but both bones. Not a minor injury.
No.
The media even refers to it as a minor injury. I wonder how those reporters would feel if they had a bullet through their arm. They might not refer to it the same way.
Maybe give me one, though.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Now, some of the newspaper coverage seemed somewhat fair of the trial. Is that true?
Say that again?
Well, did the newspaper, the Eugene Register Guard, they covered parts of this story that show that maybe they were trying to be fair. Do you agree with that?
No.
No. Did they have different writers working on it over the years, I imagine?
Oh, I think they perhaps were fair.
Okay.
They reported what they knew, but I didn't mean to say the writers were doing the best thing they had to work with. Mm-hmm. But I don't think the courts were fair.
No, I don't think the courts were fair either in looking back at this, but it is the Register Guard where we can go read about certain parts of this case that really make you shake your head.
Yeah.
And Jagger, the fact that he didn't choose to challenge any of that material that came across. Now, you did get him a few years later to say that 300 and some odd pages of exculpatory evidence was withheld.
63, I think it was. Pages.
That seems like it should bring a trial all by itself, a new trial. Right?
The judges don't think so. It's important.
No. I guess that would rock their boat.
There were people that they had in, one of the things they had in there was that, an employee at the West Side Post Office says he knows who had shot the person that shot Diane and the kids. They never followed it.
Right. People who are watching this, if they want to, if attorneys that are watching this have any great thoughts, can they email you? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. We'll put your email on the screen so people can see it there. And I don't know. I get the feeling when I read over this